Welcome to the Restoration Domination Podcast, where you learn actionable advice that moves the needle and helps service-based businesses dominate. Here's your host, Rico Garcia Jr.
All right, Dominators, what is going on? Get ready, buckle in for another amazing episode. First and foremost, thank you so much for joining us here today. Are you ready to help us dominate?
I am ready.
Let's do it. So do me a favor, fill in some of the gaps on the intro and let everybody know who you are and exactly what it is that you do in the industry.
Ricelli Mordecai from Brazil, 17 years in this industry. And oh my goodness, I never thought I was going to last more than a day. And it's always funny because I can never forget how many years I've been in the industry because it started 2 months after I got married. So it's kind of like, I always remember because of that, right? What I do, I am a sales consultant and trainer for the restoration industry. I have been in sales, oh my gosh, since I was 17 with my first business. So going 30 years in sales and sales training. And what I do right now for companies to help them become sales driven and not ops driven. Mm-hmm. The ops is the product they sell.
Yes.
But if they are not sales driven and they get stuck within the ops process of everything, that is when their businesses start going down instead of growing.
I love it.
So I help companies become sales driven and grow, produce more money.
And I love that. And I've mentioned this on several other podcasts where I'm constantly asking restoration business owners like what they do. And everybody looks at me in the industry like I'm crazy and they'll probably catch on by now, right? But they're like, oh, well, we do water mitigation or we do this or we do that. And I'm like, no, you don't. You're in sales. And then it just so happens that what you deliver on is that service. But first and foremost, like every company really should be sales driven. And then the operations is what kind of, that's the deliverable of what you're selling. Yeah, exactly. Sure. So talk to us about like your sales journey. Like take us like kind of like to the beginning of like this arena. Like what got you excited about sales? When did you realize you're like, wow, okay, this is where I belong. This is what I love.
I love this because nobody has asked me this in years. I was 10 years old and I wanted to make money. I think my allowance back in the day was about $10. And my father used to travel a lot for business and he brought me $10 worth of pottery. So I think 5 of them. And he said, okay, so this is $10 worth of pottery. You want to make money. How would you make money? And I said, I'll sell them for $10. And he was like, no, it costs $10. I said, no, $10 each. And he said, you can't do that. And I said, well, watch me. And I remember a friend of mine used to sell, be in the beauty counter of some store. And she gave me some samples of perfume. And I just jazzed those little potteries up. And I sold to my grandmother, to her sisters at the reunion, to anybody that will feel like it was so cute that a 10-year-old was trying to make money. And I made, I made that money. And it was amazing to me to see how I could turn something into more money, right? And it was like a seed that I could plant. And I'm terrible with plants, but I have, through sales, mastered this art of you plant something and you grow something even bigger. And that is when I knew that it was for me. I played Barbie dolls. It's so funny. I played Barbie dolls and the purpose was not to play with the dolls, but to create a fashion show and charge for it. Right?
Nice.
It was always about that. So that's the story.
I love it. So when you got into the restoration arena, how was that entry into, is restoration like this one industry that you always wanted to get into?
Oh, absolutely. When I was 3 years old in Brazil, I'm like, I can't wait to join this industry. No, it's, my background is fashion and marketing. And there was a textile company and I could tell a Louis Vuitton from the various levels of the fake one. And that's kind of how I landed the position. And a year and a half later, I saw that there was a need within restoration companies who were my client at the time to have a qualified business development person, but they didn't have the budget to pay me full time. So I started fractioning my time and I created this concept of a fraction BDM. And now I'm a fraction chief revenue officer for a lot of restoration companies. So I started fractioning my time and duplicating that. I had my husband join me and then my brother join me and then training companies to do the same thing. And that's how I started. Years later, after I wrote my first book, a big franchisor in the industry brought me in. I was their director of sales training. I also was in charge of acting as the VP of sales, if you will, for new offices that had just graduated owner school in that franchise system until their first 1.5 million. So I started doing all these things, and that is what took me to where I am today, and all of this. So yeah, it's
What do you
quite a
think?
journey.
What would you say, looking back, were some of your first big wins to where you looked at it and you're like, okay, I'm a winner in sales in this industry, and I've just been able to prove the track record to myself to make sure that it's replicatable. Like, what did you have, like a specific moment where you were like, I got this 100% and I can teach other people how to do it?
I think it was when I discovered that it was all in the numbers, right? The famous liars can figure, but figures can lie. When I was able to see that there was a correlation between what I did, the number of accounts that I visited, and the revenue that I produced, it gave me a sense of control that I can continue to work harder, get this, but now I have metrics that I can teach people and say, this is what you do and this is how you produce. So that was the first one. And then the second, when I was with this other franchisor, and I was able to teach the same things and see the same results, regardless of whether it was LA or Grand Island, Nebraska. I'm like, it's all in the numbers. You do this and you'll get what you want.
I love it. It's all in the numbers. And in my opinion, I've noticed, because again, I've spoken to so many people. I've been in the sales game for what seems like forever. And you ask a lot of salespeople, like, hey, do you know your numbers? And they're like, yeah, I know my numbers. I'm like, what's your closing rate? They're like, oh man, I close 8 out of 10. I was like, when was the last time that you actually tracked like what your metrics look like? And they're like, well, I don't really have that. Right. Do you find that a lot of, business development managers and, business development salespeople, that they're really not familiar with their numbers, and that because we're all legends in our own mind, right? To some degree. Do you find that once they start identifying a formula, that all of a sudden, even if their sales skill doesn't improve, that just by tracking it, that there's a bump in their sales numbers?
Yes. And then there's the other side to that too, when they don't know the numbers. And you see that, and I ask people, what is your cost of job acquisition? And they don't know. And I put them through my formula, and I see that somebody's on track for 237% as their cost of job acquisition. And they say, and I'm like, and the job is 100%. Okay. Right. So what does that mean? And I'm like, that means that you're losing a lot of money because you don't know your numbers. Right. And for me, that is when I look at this as a process, and I'm like, okay, here are the adjustments you need to make so that you can duplicate.
Can I actually, and please put a pin in that thought, because I want to, because no one's ever mentioned that exact scenario on the show. And I talk a lot about this lifetime value aspect. And this is more of used in the marketing in the online space, but a lifetime value is a lifetime value. I don't think you can go to any company, a big Fortune 500 company, and not talk about lifetime value of a client. They figured it out. McDonald's, Nike, they've all figured it out. Okay. The restoration arena, for the most part, and I've talked to some pretty high octave individuals within our industry, they don't, for whatever reason, they don't factor in lifetime value of a client. So you just mentioned that cost of acquisition sometimes of a new customer, right, is sometimes higher. But if they're not tracking their numbers and they don't realize that their cost of acquisition is higher, some of these companies could still be profitable, but that's because of the overall lifetime value of their core group of clients, right? So the point that I'm trying to make with that is, imagine if companies that are profitable, that are still taking a loss on the front end, but they don't know why, right? They're still profitable. If they track those numbers, now when it comes down to advertising, when it comes down to marketing, when it comes down to getting more business development people out there, because they fully understand, hey, this is my cost of acquisition. This is also the lifetime value that this one client is going to represent for my client, for my company over, 24, 36 months or 5 years or whatever that number is, plus all of the referrals that I get from that person. Now I've got this real number that I can plan around. Obviously that knowing those numbers makes the entire journey that much more profitable, right?
It does. But the challenge with our industry is that we have multiple clients. we have the referral source as one of our clients. And that one, we can definitely, if people are persistent year over year, we can track the lifetime value of a referral source.
Yep.
A guy that in the first year gave you one lead and 5 years later is giving you one lead per week or per day.
Yep.
But then we are also dealing with the end user of the product, the homeowner. And with that one, you can't really track a lifetime value to, because people are expected to have one or two property damages throughout their life. And what are the chances that they are going to be living in the same place and remembering you when that happens 20 years later? So I think that it becomes a bit more technical of a discussion to be able to factor that all in. But I'll tell you this much though. The cost of job acquisition should go down throughout the years, and the soft spot for our industry should be about 10%. One of my most successful clients, he would literally pay 10% for cost of job acquisition and say to the BDMs, do whatever you want with the budget, but that is what you're getting paid on, right? Mm-hmm. And that made for people that were extremely successful and that turned their job into a business for themselves. But what happens for the majority of companies is that they don't know the numbers. They don't even know their cost of goods sold. And they're saying, well, we were profitable 18% last year, but they don't have those numbers for each individual area of customer acquisition. And then people talk so badly about TPAs. I hate TPAs for this and that. And okay, you can hate TPAs all day long, but here's the reality of some of the TPAs: 5% of cost of job acquisition. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Oh, it's going to mess up with my COGS. Yes, it will. But now we are looking at 100%, 5 towards the cost of acquiring that, mm-hmm. right? And you are dealing with a BDM right now that's 237%. Yeah. And you don't even, you know what I mean? Like, that is when I get a bit anxious in the message, and I'm like, there's more to this story that you guys are not that you're not looking into. And because of that, 6 months later, you're saying that this person is costing you money and they haven't produced anything because you didn't start with a structured plan to see how many accounts they need to be managing, what can be expected, your internal conversions, your average job size to the potential of the revenue that person can produce.
When should people really start, as a business owner, looking at those numbers and trying to identify them to get crystal clear on what those numbers are?
Well, if you want to look back, you just assign a period of time and you look at those numbers, right? Having a conversation today, I'm like, what was the total revenue last year? Okay, let's divide that by the number of unique jobs, not parts of the job, but unique jobs, right? This is your average job size. Okay, fantastic. Now let's look at your leads. People are not even documenting the leads. A lot of restoration companies are only entering things into their system once it becomes a job, a signed job. Yes. And then we're dealing with that problem too. So people are flying by the seat of their pants. I think that's the saying. And I'm like, that is not scalable. You're talking about opening another office. You're talking about hiring another person, but you don't have clarity on your current numbers. And if you don't, I cannot help you scale.
Yeah. Yeah, I love that. And one of the things, that I had asked on my onboarding form is what do you wish that more business owners knew? And that's exactly what you said. It's like numbers, the metrics, like how do you make it work? So great. So now let's talk about, great. Now you've walked into this restoration company, right? They're somewhat familiar with their numbers. What do you do? Like, what's your number one approach? It's like to make the salespeople better, to make it more profitable. Like, how do you look at it? And then how do you start dissecting it? And how do you start growing it?
The first thing that I do is to look at the number of accounts that they are managing, what they are getting from those accounts, and really diving into what they're doing. A BDM, a business development manager is doing, or account manager is doing from 8 to 5. That's what I want to know. Mm-hmm. Right. And then I want to know where the company wants to go so that I can see how many more of those positions we need to create for the company. Then we want to look into what is the process for coaching those people on practical systems that they can utilize to produce the results, because we don't manage people. Mm-hmm. I never get tired of saying this. We do not manage people. We create systems, we manage systems, and we coach people on how to execute those systems so that they can manage themselves. Right.
I love it.
And that's why I usually say that you can't be a sales manager and a salesperson at the same time, because you can't be the coach and the player during the same game. A coach has an outside view of internal problems, right? Somebody once said, you can't see the full picture when you're inside the frame. That's exactly it, right? So being able to scale companies and work with them and saying, okay, you have 3 BDMs, you don't need a chief revenue officer for more than 5 hours per week. And then we're going to phase out after 6 months and you're just going to remove me from those appointments. And I'm going to continue to coach the coach, but you can do this yourself. People don't believe it. Mm-hmm. But it's the truth of restoration companies. Everything else is water cooler conversations.
Right.
And that is not what grow businesses. That is actually what fuels problems. Mm-hmm. That is what creates gossip that then one person leaves and everybody's leaving with them. Mm-hmm. That does not that does not grow businesses.
Do you think that the systems are much more important than the sales reps that are going out there that are shaking hands and kissing babies? Or do you believe that you still need to have A players, that certain type of mindset, that go-getter, that's charming, that's witty, that can think on their feet, that has extremely good follow-up, and then a good system just makes them better? Like, what comes first?
The egg or the chicken? $1 million question. I think that they go hand in hand. And here's the reality. We are not on a employer market right now. We are on an employee market. People don't show up to interviews. Sometimes people show up to interviews badly dressed, even on camera. And what I'm telling my clients is, what is your ideal client, ideal candidate like? And who is the person that you will absolutely not hire? And we're going to see people in a range in between those two. Unfortunately, that's the reality. And because of that, that is why right now we are having to have more of that component of the numbers, because a lot of restoration companies want the $2 million, $3 million producer per year, but they are not willing to pay a 6-figure for that person.
Why is that?
I think that there's I think that a lot of owners have this idea that it shouldn't cost them that much, and they are not looking for a percentage amount. They are some owners are looking at, I don't think this person is worth $150,000, and I'm like, well, if your cost of job acquisition is 10%, and they produced this much, why shouldn't they?
Right.
Well, because it's too high for the industry.
Well,
I'm like,
usually what that response is, well, I never got paid that much for that.
And right. I'm like, your problem, not their problem. Yeah. They are producing. And then this new person will leave either the industry, making our industry even weaker than it is in how people think about us a lot of times, right? Or what will happen is that it will make people be less engaged and less driven to continue to grow in their position. They become stagnant because they're like, if I'm not going to get paid more, what's the point? Which exactly. I can totally understand, being, a Doberman personality type. I can totally understand if there's no growth, why am I even here?
Exactly. Yeah. And I think that not enough people really take a step back and think about that, right? From that lens. And what a lot of people need to realize, I think, even as a business owner, is when you start a company, brand new company, and it's just you in a truck and it's just your time, you're keeping 100%. It's 100%. Right? Of whatever you bring in, whatever you kill, you ate. Well, that's great. But then as you start growing, like, your margins are, to some degree, are supposed to go down, because you are paying people to go ahead and buy your time back so you can get out of the frame, as you said. Now, once you're out of the frame, now you're no longer the owner operator. Now you're looking at the entire business, and it's more of becoming a chess master, right? And with that comes the understanding and having to swallow this pill of, like, I am now in a position, which is, again, this is a psychological barrier. I am now in a position to pay someone an exuberant amount of money that I never had the opportunity to pay. So for a lot of people, it feels like, dude, I'm giving my money away. Like, who the freak are you for me to pay you $150K? Well, that's just the nature of the game. But that person, if they've got that 10% and you're banking the rest of this money, well, that's just part of doing business. So one thing that I wanted to ask you, which I asked you on the onboarding form, is the top 3 questions that you really wish that more business owners asked if they really wanted to be successful in this industry. What's your response to that? But before you answer that, let's just take a quick moment to thank our sponsors. If you're a restoration contractor who is tired of chasing money on property insurance claims, then you have to check out Inc. Inc is a digital payment network that helps restoration professionals get paid more efficiently after an insured property loss. And by using promo code DOMINATE at signup, you can get an amazing 50% off the one-time signup fee on IncPay. And after that, IncPay is free to use. So go ahead and join the hundreds of contractors that are already using IncPay to endorse, deposit, and disperse insurance claims check. And best of all of this can be done right from your mobile device. So head on over to inc.com, that's IINK.com, and use promo code DOMINATE. Hey, Dominator, did you know that it takes about 45 days for most contractors to get paid on emergency service jobs? And some contractors report much longer wait times than that. Either way, it's a long time, especially when you start adding in all of the stress that you have to do to keep up with payroll, overhead costs, and everything that goes along with just running a business. Well, One Claim Solutions is an insurance billing specialist that not only gets their clients paid in 32 days on average, but it also improves their profitability. And above and beyond that, it also handles all of the communications with the adjusters. One Claim Solutions was actually founded back in 2016. And since then, they've been able to process hundreds of millions of dollars in insurance invoices on behalf of their clients. Listen, you deserve to work with a specialist that has well-trained attorneys as well as staff. And also they have proprietary purpose-built technology with some really rigorous time-proven processes that's needed to deliver a best-in-class insurance billing experience. One Claim Solutions will handle it all so that you can focus on really what matters most, which is running your business. Head on over to oneclaimsolution.com/dominate. Again, that's oneclaimsolution.com/dominate. Book your free consultation today. Hey, Dominators, did you know that about 80% of businesses are actually unsellable? This is why you need to let Restoration Brokers of America work with you to ensure that you maximize the value of your business when you decide that it's time for a change. All you have to do is visit sellmyrestorationbusiness.com for more information. You've worked hard to build it. Now let RBA work hard to sell it. Dominators, let's face it, your company will make it or break it on the backs of your estimating team. But if we're honest here for a second, what tools have you actually given them to succeed? The Actionable Profile is the newest tool inside of your estimator's toolbox, or at the very least, it should be. The Actionable Xactimate Profile is a data-driven solution that provides real-time estimating guidance on the fly. It checks for both overages, omissions in your estimates in real time, leading your team to having much more accurate scopes each and every single time that they're writing an estimate. Avoid any kind of potential conflicts with the adjuster and ensure that your estimates include every single warranted line item with the Actionable Xactimate Profile. Get your free demo today. If you head on over to value.getinsights.org/dominate, we've got an amazing offer for you. Again, head on over to value.getinsights.org/dominate and get your free demo today. Hey, Dominators, quick question. Are you looking to attract top industry talent? Well, I'm here to tell you that Wylander is the go-to recruiting company in order to attract the best talent available inside of the restoration arena, period. Now, why do I say that? Well, simple. With over 1,000 placements, and more importantly, with experience in all 50 states, as well as in good old Canada, Wylander is going to be able to find the right fit for you and your company. Wylander not only has the expertise, but more importantly, they already have the connections to make sure that they find that perfect fit for you and your organization. So listen, we all know that time is money. So stop wasting time just sifting through resume after resume and let Wylander do the heavy lifting for you. Get back to what it is that you're good at. Get back to money-making activities. Call Wylander today. Let them help you find that next superstar in your organization. All right. And we are back. All right. So cool. So we had left it off with the top 3 questions that you think that more business owners should ask if they really wanted to be successful. Shoot.
Clarity on their numbers. That's the question that they need to ask their internal team. Okay. How they are training their team to become sales driven so that everybody buys into the part that they play within the sales process. And are they capable of linking what they're offering to an employee as the solution for that person's visions of their own lives. Here's what I mean by that, and I'm quite passionate about that. I call that emotional fuel. It's the title of my book, What's Your Fuel? I train people on that. It's the emotional substance that is essential to produce a drive within an individual. It's linked to their personality type and helps them to increase satisfaction and performance. When your employee sees that the only way for them to get whatever they want out of their lives is through their current position with your company, not only they stay, but they thrive.
Right. I love that.
And they no longer treat it like a job. They treat it as the solution, the only solution to their life's problems.
Mm-hmm. So here's a more modern question. Due to the internet being what it is, every time that you open Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, or now brand new through Instagram, Threads just got dropped yesterday, brand new app. Awesome. Everybody should get on that, by the way. Take advantage of a new app. But anyways, every time that you open this, right, the majority of what we would consider the workforce, right, the young workforce coming into the market, is bombarded with the millionaire lifestyle, with the digital lifestyle, which, by the way, full disclosure, it is very, 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 very real. There's tons of people making money in e-com, tons of people making money on affiliate marketing. I do it. I love it. I mean, it's marketing, right? How does a company compete with that? With the constant bombardment of true, genuine freedom. They could do it anywhere in the world. They don't need to deal with people. They don't have to answer to a boss. This sounds really attractive.
Of course, it is. Of course.
And full disclosure, this is very real. Okay. So how does a company provide an environment where this person says, you know what, this is not only a job, this is where I thrive. And then how does an owner who is conscious, because this is another thing, that is conscious of that reality for that person, how do they pitch that with integrity?
Wow. But we are going to have another call just on that. But I will say this, though. I started my career in direct marketing, which right now is considered affiliate marketing.
Yes.
And I worked my butt off. I used to put out 1,000 flyers a day in the middle of Rio de Janeiro, wearing a suit because that was the only thing that separated my brand from everybody else passing out flyers. 100-degree weather. And I had a locket around my neck with a picture of a BMW Z3. I remember at that time. That's how old I am. And I remember when things got tough, I opened that locket and I look at that, and that was the clear vision of what I wanted. And it's amazing because I usually tell people I'm living right now my vision of 20 years ago. And a lot of times what we need to understand with our employees is that what moves them is not money, right? 4 personality types, really quick, I can say this. The visionary, they need a constant evolving vision of who they can become, right? And what fuels them is power, precision, profit. The mission-oriented guy is stability, structure, and systems. The Labrador, it's all based on dogs, but the Labrador, being the dreamer, is recreation, recognition, and reward. And then we have another one we don't have time to discuss. But the reality is when we can create an environment where people say, you know what? My base salary is actually somebody investing in my future. And my commissions allow me to create whatever I want. Then you start having bosses that are mentors. And a mentor is one that says, okay, you're having a hard day. What can we do together to change this? Right?
I love that.
And when you have a mentor, you gravitate towards that person because you see that person as a solution to your problems. And owners are not doing that. People are becoming entitled, thinking, I'm paying this person a wage. They have to do this. They don't have to do crap. They are going to go elsewhere.
Right.
And that's why companies are spending so much money with retrainment of the same people. And that's why when I do my sales training, we spend just the first day of our sales training in personal and professional development, because that allows people to want to stay, and managers to turn into mentors, owners to turn into investors. And the conversation becomes one that's uplifting. And when disasters happen, which happens a lot in our industry, those people are working the 16-hour days, not because they have to, but because they take ownership of their position and they see themselves as employeepreneurs.
I like that.
And that's why they do what they have to do.
That's awesome. And we have to wrap this up, but let's just talk real quick about the Sales Masters training. And if somebody wants to get more information, if they're like, hey, look, this really jives with where we're at in our business today and where we're looking to take it. They want to learn more about you. They want to go ahead and hire you to come in and take a look at their company. How do they do that? And what does that process look like?
Yeah, you can go to my LinkedIn. We're going to post the link here. As you guys see this podcast, but Ricelli, Mordecai on LinkedIn. I'm the only one. Nobody has my name over there. Just spell Ricelly. But when you find me, you are going to see that for you to have Sales Masters, it's just a quick process of understanding whether or not you are in a point of your business where you want to invest back in your team and you want to turn your team into a sales-driven organization. So connect with me. I offer, as a matter of fact, I'm going to offer not one, but 3 free 15-minute consultations to the first people that reach out to me and say that they saw me here on this podcast on Restoration Domination. And we're going to start the process with them.
That's awesome. Cool. Thank you so much. I appreciate you spending some time here with us today. And Dominators, make sure that you check out a video in the video description as well as in the show notes. We're going to go ahead and leave everything that you need in order to succeed in your business. And as always, hustle, hack, dominate. I'll catch you guys on the next one.
You've been listening to Restoration Domination, your #1 resource for tips, tricks, and hacks to help your business grow. Subscribe to our channel and follow us for more Restoration Domination. And follow our host at Rico Garcia Jr. on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, and LinkedIn. Till next time, this is Restoration Domination. Hustle, hack, dominate.